My name is Mervyn Lasovsky. I was born in Salisbury, in a small house in Baines Avenue, not far from Moffat Street, which I understand today is already a block of flats. My mother, Lizzie Harris as she was born in England. Her family had left Poland some years before, stayed in England for a while, and then came on to Rhodesia. My mother and her parents and part of the family Bulawayo, the rest to Salisbury. My dad came from Lithuania in 1908 to join his father, who came out in 1902. They traded for many years.
They came straight to Rhodesia?
Pardon?
Straight to Rhodesia?
They went to what was then Bechuanaland, and they traded in Bechuanaland for many years. My grandfather went back to Lithuania, and my father then came up to Rhodesia, and somehow or other, I've never quite found out how, became the manager of Shamba stores and the runner and the proprietor of the Shamba Hotel. In those days, Shamba was a prospectus paradise for gold and all sorts of things, not like it ended up in our time later. I understand that when aged about 4, we moved, my family and I moved to Meikle's Hotel. We stayed for some 2 years while our house on Montague Avenue was being built. For the people from Salisbury who may be watching this, they should know that in those days, 4th Street running north ended at 5th Avenue. From 5th Avenue to get to Baines Avenue, Montague Avenue, what became the northern limits of the town, North Avenue, you went on a dirt road. We lived there for many years, and I must tell you that life in Salisbury and Rhodesia for youngsters of our age was a paradise. To give you some idea of our schooling to start with, first of all I went to Greenwood School, which is a private school near where we lived. Subsequently, from Standard 3 until I passed my A-levels in the end of 1939, I went to what was then Prince Edward Junior School and subsequently became Prince Edward Senior School. Many of you watching may also have been a Prince Edward, and you will remember with me its wonderful setting, standing on some 200 to 300 acres, I believe, with its classrooms, with its boarding rooms, the Byte Hall, its cricket pitches, its soccer fields, the rugby fields, the wonderful athletic arena that they had, and all the latest things. A public school which have given anybody living in Britain would have viewed them with delight. Very much so, from the headmaster, old man Somerville, down to the whole lot of the teachers. Public school at its best. Life in Salisbury, what can I tell you? Mornings at school. Afternoons back to school for sports. Friday nights, family night at home. Saturday morning, children's services in the shul. Saturday afternoon, we each received a shilling, 9pence to go in to the Palace Cinema, ticket to spend on ice cream across the road at the Levenstein's place, the Rhodesia. Sundays, Habonim. The long vacations, either camps or family holidays in Muizenberg. The Rhodes and Founders Weekend, spent alternately in Salisbury and Bulawayo, alternate years, the competition between the two, Habonim and Dudim. In beginning of 1940, I went to varsity, to Cape Town, to College House, and I will not bore you with all the details of my varsity life, but perhaps I should mention one important date, and that was in March 1942, when I met my wife-to-be in the snake park, in the snake pit in Muizenberg Beach, like all good Jewish boys and girls did in those days. For those whose arithmetic is not so good, you must know that next month, we will be celebrating our 73rd anniversary of our first date. A statistic which I'm sure Mr. Guinness would like to hear. At the end of December, beginning of January 1943, I had to report to number 2 training camp in Bulawayo. 3 months later to KG6 for a signals course. And in October 1945, we went down by train to Durban for invocation to the north. One incident I must tell you in Durban, on our invocation leave, we went into a pub to have a drink, and we found there a man in British uniform, British Air Force uniform, with Palestine on his back shoulders. And who did it turn out to be? This was Asa Weitzman, going to Gwelo to train with the Air Force. And we had a long chat there. It seemed a peculiar coincidence. You all know that he was president of this country eventually. And you also know this famous story, which I have no doubt he learned in Gwelo, that he used to fly with his Spitfire over the Egyptians and throw his bombs out of the cockpit. I won't bore you with my stories of army life, but I have to tell you a few incidents which made a deep impression upon me then, and which I have carried with me all my life, and which I have no doubt is responsible for our coming on aliyah. In Yom Kippur, 1945, we were attending a service for servicemen in the synagogue in Turin. Minding our own business, praying, as we should be doing, in walked what I can only call 50 skeletons. These, of course, were refugees from the concentration camps. Displaced persons, as they were euphemistically called. And you must understand that at that time, there were merely rumors of what had happened to the Jews during the Nazi occupation. And the stories being told were set aside as being exaggerated, impossible. Nobody, for that matter, could believe that any human being could treat another human being as the Germans treated the Jews. It's a lesson which you had learned then, which we must bear in mind. Amongst some other experiences in Italy, with the help of the Jewish Joint Movement and the Jewish Brigade, I found and traced the only living relation, my only relation to come out of the war, out of Lithuania alive. The people from Bulawayo will possibly remember John Siegel, John and Marcia. Marcia was Tanya Barron's sister, Tanya Gollum's sister, and eventually we managed to get them into Rhodesia after the war. I also, with the help of the Jewish Brigade at the time, was put on a motorbike and two of the displaced persons in the area till I found the late Adolf Leon's sister, who I'm happy to tell you I met many years later in Jerusalem when she came up to Adolf shortly before he died. In October 45, we went back by boat to Cairo and to Helwan camp to wait flights home. At the camp there was a notice board. On it were two lists: those bound to the next flight home and those with leave to Palestine. My friends from Bulawayo, my friends Peeps Golden from Bulawayo, Jackie Benner from Bulawayo and I were astounded one day to go to the notice board and found our names on both lists. Now, we'd been away from home some 2 years, and it was a difficult decision. But the three of us came to Israel. This was our first visit.
Alice.
To Palestine as it was, Israel as we know it. What can I tell you? We came by train from Cairo to Rehovot, which at that time was the final station on the railway line. We were horrified to find out that we could not go to Tel Aviv. It was under curfew. What was happening? It had been occupied fully by the British troops, who, as far as we could see, main purpose in life was to ensure that no Jew landed in Israel, or Palestine as it was, despite what had happened to him in Nazi Germany. This was a lesson which we also learned. We have to look after ourselves. We eventually caught our plane back to Bulawayo in January, and I took the overnight train to Salisbury and back home. Some 2 weeks later, with the compliments of the Rhodesian Defence Forces who provided us with tickets to the coast, I went down to Cape Town to spend 10 days with Joyce and her family.
Were you already married at that point?
No. I'd just come back from the war. I'd never earned a penny in my life at that stage. I went back to Salisbury and into the business. I think Joyce will tell you more about our personal events at that stage. But when I did get back, I was honoured and very pleased to be approached by some of the youth with a request to take over as Bakar of Habonim, a task which I filled with great joy for the next 2 years. And I'm particularly happy to tell you, without naming them, that many of my Madechim at the time have been and are now in Israel.
But you were very involved in the establishment of Habonim before the war.
Well, I wasn't involved in the establishment. We were amongst the first lot. Nick Aladef and I joined Habonim at the age of 8. When Lionel Harris, the late Lionel Harris, he was the first Rosh Gadud, and Sadie Kaplan from Bulawayo ran Habonim until I took over for many years. We're really grateful to her. Shortly afterwards, our son Kenneth went to London. My daughter Barbara married Ryan Reichman and came to Israel. A few years later, our youngest daughter Beth married Michael Novovitz and also came to Israel. So we decided there was no longer any reason or any excuse. We packed up and we came here to live ever happily, a life of great joy in this wonderful country of ours.
What year did you come to Israel?
76. And that is the story I have to tell tonight. One thing I want to do though, if I may, I have in my hands a book called Pioneers in Palestine. Not a great book. But it happened to be the book available when our first visitor to our house on Montague Avenue came to dine. And you must know that the book never left Montague Avenue. It was only presented for signature to those Zionist visitors whom my parents entertained and whom Joyce and I had the honor to entertain after they had passed away. If I may read you the first inscription, it says, "With best wishes, be a good fellow," signed by Chaim Weizmann in Salisbury on the 3rd of March 72. 32. The last inscription is signed by Ezra Weizmann in August 72. Other people who we were honored to entertain at Montague Avenue include the names of Nachum Sokolov, Sigmund Badetsky, Rabbi Elhil Silva, and many other names. And to me, it is a precious reminder of my parents and of the joy Joyce and I had in entertaining these people, and is really of great value to me. Thank you again.
Mervyn, can you talk a little bit about your father and his involvement in the community? Your uncle, I know, was very involved in the community.
What can I tell you, Dave? My dad served, as far as I know, he served on the Salisbury Irrigation Board for Salisbury Irrigation Seal Committee for 25 years. He was president on and off for 4 or 5 years. Him and the late Louis Brodie took it in turns to be president and vice president of the Shul, from what I can understand. He was involved in Zionist work. He was he and Sam Lasovsky were both chairmen of the society, very much involved. And as I said, as I could only say, I actually grew up with very little possibility of avoid being a Zionist. It was around me all the time. As far as I was concerned, I was interested in other communal activities and gave my support when I could. But I basically followed the Zionist cause, Zionist Youth Society, Gaza. This was my sphere. My dad was chairman of the Jewish Committee of Gaza for very many years. My Uncle Sam also. My father lived in Zionism, and as I said before,
And
we had to follow suit.
he visited Israel?
He came, when my mother died, my father would no longer bear to be in Salisbury over the Yom Tovim. Every Rosh Hashanah and every Pesach, he came to Israel. Two very good friends of ours. This is a story. One of the pilots who trained in Salisbury by the name of Nachman Meiri, he had lived in Tel Aviv with his parents, and my dad spent Yom Tovim with them for many, many years to come. Always Rosh Hashanah and Pesach, he was gone. My Uncle Sam never came here, unfortunately. My other two uncles were good Jews, but they weren't in the same class as far as Zionism was concerned. They were a big family, this would be. Anything else you mentioned that I've forgotten, Dave?
Well, you want to talk a bit about what you did, what your parents, what your dad was involved in business, and you in business?
Well, the business was Lasovsky brother. Incidentally, I'm told, I've seen pictures. We had a big building in Salisbury, a tall building, with the name Lasovsky Brothers in large letters right across it. And I understand if you go to Arnold's Terrace in Salisbury today, it's dominating it is the building with the names Lasovsky Brothers still on it. They were in business there. I joined the business, and I was partners with my Uncle Sam and my dad, with Sam after my dad died. And when we left, Sam also left. We left the business there, which we sold eventually. There was no alternative.
And you've had a good life in Israel?
I want to tell you that we're living happily ever after. What can I tell you? This is, to me, it's a wonderful country. I hope we all agree with me, but that's what I say. Despite its politics, despite all the things, and we tell my friends who might be watching this, there is no country in the world like this. And we have no nostalgia for Rhodesia. I have nostalgia for Rhodesia, but none whatsoever for Zimbabwe. So we saved that at least. As far as I'm concerned, Rhodesia no longer exists, which is also helpful from that point of view. I've been back, not since I sold the business. Sold the business must be now 30 years ago. I haven't been back since. When we did go to Salisbury, it was a terrible problem, because it was very difficult to avoid going past the old house on Montague Avenue. All my friends lived in the area, and on no account whatsoever was I prepared to see our Montague Avenue.
You couldn't bring yourself to go in?
I couldn't, not to go in, couldn't bring myself to go past it. But that's a long time ago. Joyce, that's how it was. But that's the story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for what you're doing for the Rhodesia community. I think it's a wonderful record. It's really, don't turn it off. Let me say my few words.
I wanted to show you when I was...
You're going to come this now, Joyce.
Okay.
Thank you, gang, and good luck. And what can I tell you? Your mommy particularly would climb nachas from you. Thanks again.